3 days passed inside the containment cell. The humans had been given food, strange dry blocks that tasted like nothing, and they had been given thin blankets to sleep on the cold floor. But no one came to talk to them. No one answered their questions. They were alone with their fear. Daniel Moreno walked the edge of the energy field every morning, studying the guards who stood watch outside. They kept their distance, always at least 20 feet away. They changed shifts every few hours, but they never came close. They were afraid. Ashley Burke spent her time trying to understand the aliens. She watched their movements, listened to fragments of their language, and wrote notes on a small device she had hidden in her pocket. On the 4th day, she noticed something different. One of the guards was not like the others. This guard was smaller and looked like a large moth, with soft wings and big dark eyes, while the other guards stared at the humans with fear or hatred. This one stared with curiosity. Ashley caught its eye and raised her hand in a small wave. The moth-like creature tilted its head, but did not look away. That night, when the other guards had moved to the far end of the corridor, the creature approached the energy field. It spoke in a soft voice that the translation device in Ashley's ear could barely pick up. "You are the water beings," it said. "I am Tilix of the Valorian species. I am not a soldier, I am a scientist. They made me guard you because no one else wanted to be this close." Ashley moved closer to the field, careful not to touch it. "I am Dr. Ashley Burke. I am also a scientist. Can you help us understand what is happening?" Tilix looked around nervously, then spoke quickly. "The Council is afraid. They have been afraid for thousands of years. Water is death to most species here. Long ago, there were wars fought with water as a weapon. Entire planets were poisoned. Lakes and rivers were created to kill billions. The Council made water illegal. Any species that could survive contact with it was marked as dangerous." Ashley felt sick. "We did not know any of this. On our world, water is everywhere. It falls from the sky. It fills our oceans. All life on Earth needs it to survive." Tilix's big eyes grew even wider. "That is why they fear you so much. You are not just immune to water. You are made of it. You need it. To the Council, that makes you more terrifying than any weapon ever built." Over the next few days, Tilix returned whenever the other guards were not watching. She brought Ashley information about the Council, about the different species, and about the debate over Earth's fate. Ashley shared this information with Daniel and the others. Kevin Torres worked on his communication equipment, trying to intercept the Council's transmissions. He was good at his job, and soon he was listening to their secret discussions. What he heard made everyone's blood run cold. "They have scheduled the vote," Kevin told the group, his face pale. "In 30 standard cycles, about 25 Earth days, they will decide. And most of the Council wants to destroy Earth. They want to send a fleet to boil our oceans into space and burn every living thing on the surface." Ryan Holt punched the wall in anger. "We have to do something. We cannot just sit here and wait for them to kill everyone we love." Daniel held up a hand. "We will do something, but we need to be smart. We are 50 people against an entire galaxy. We cannot fight our way out of this." Ashley had been thinking about their situation for days. Now she spoke up. "Tilix told me something interesting. The guards are terrified of us, but they do not actually know what water can or cannot do to us. They assume it is poison to everyone. They have never seen anyone drink it and live." Daniel looked at her with interest. "What are you suggesting?" Before Ashley could answer, Ryan Holt did something that changed everything. He had been listening to the conversation while holding his emergency canteen, a small container of water that every crew member carried. Without thinking too hard, he raised the canteen to his lips and took a long drink. One of the guards at the far end of the corridor saw him do it. The guard, a tall insect-like creature, let out a scream that echoed through the hallway. It dropped its weapon and ran, shouting in its own language. Within minutes, the corridor was chaos. Guards fled in every direction. Alarms started sounding. Soldiers from other parts of the station came running. But when they saw Ryan still standing there, perfectly healthy, still holding his canteen, they stopped dead. Tillix was the only one who did not run. She stood trembling near the energy field, staring at Ryan with amazement. "You consumed it," she whispered. "Enough water to kill 100 soldiers, and you are unharmed." Ryan looked at the canteen in his hand, then at the terrified aliens all around. A slow smile spread across his face. "I drink this much every few hours. We all do. We need it to survive." The news spread through the station like fire. The water beings were not just immune to the death liquid. They actively consumed it. They needed it. To the galaxy, this was like watching someone eat nuclear waste for breakfast and ask for seconds. Daniel watched the aliens retreat, and his mind began to work on a new plan. He turned to his crew with a new light in his eyes. "They fear water more than anything else in the universe," he said quietly. "And we have water. Not just in our bodies, but in our supplies, in our ship, in the emergency tanks. They gave us food, but they never searched us properly because they were too afraid to touch us." Ashley nodded slowly. "You want to use their fear against them." "I want to use it to survive," Daniel said, "and to get into that council chamber before they vote to destroy our home. We need to make them see that we are not a threat. But first, we need to get out of this cage." He looked at Tillix through the energy field. "Will you help us?" Tillix was silent for a long moment. Her wings trembled. Finally, she spoke. "I became a scientist because I believe in truth and knowledge. The council has been ruled by fear for too long. Yes, I will help you. I can send a message to Earth if we can get to a strong enough transmitter. We need to warn them about the fleet." Daniel nodded. "Then that is our plan. We escape, we warn Earth, and we find a way to speak to the council directly. We show them who we really are." He looked at Ryan, who was still holding his canteen. "And we use every advantage we have, starting with the most terrifying weapon in the galaxy." Ryan looked at the water and laughed softly. "My grandmother always told me to stay hydrated. I never thought it would save the world." Outside their cell, the guards had formed a new perimeter, even farther away than before. They watched the humans with pure terror in their eyes, and for the first time since they had been captured, the crew of the Horizon's Edge felt something like hope. Tillix worked through the night. She disabled 3 security systems and created a small gap in the energy field that held the humans captive. When the morning shift came to replace the guards, they found an empty cell. The water beings had vanished. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Thousands of soldiers began searching every corridor, every room, every shadow. But they searched slowly, carefully, because no one wanted to be the first to find the creatures who drank poison and lived. Daniel Moreno led his crew through maintenance tunnels that Tillix had marked on a small map. They moved in silence, 50 people breathing softly, stepping carefully. Ashley Burke walked near the front with Tillix, who knew the station better than anyone. Kevin Torres stayed close to Daniel, monitoring communications on his device. Ryan Holt walked near the back, and he carried something special. Before leaving the cell, the crew had gathered all their emergency water supplies. They had filled every container they could find. Ryan carried the largest container, a 2-gallon tank strapped to his back. The others carried bottles, canteens, and even plastic bags filled with the precious liquid. They were walking through a narrow corridor when they heard footsteps ahead. Everyone froze. Around the corner came a squad of soldiers, tall insect creatures with weapons raised. Daniel did not hesitate. "Ryan, front and center. Ryan moved forward, opening his water bottle. He raised it to his lips and drank slowly, letting water drip down his chin. The soldiers stared. One of them made a choking sound. Then, as a group, they turned and ran. Ashley almost laughed. I cannot believe that works every time. Tillix shook her head in amazement. You must understand, Dr. Burke. To them, you just performed an act of impossible horror. It would be like watching someone swallow fire and smile. They continued through the station, using water as their shield. Anytime guards appeared, the humans simply showed their water supplies, and the way cleared before them. Word spread fast. The water beings were loose, and they were armed with the deadliest substance in the galaxy. Tillix led them to a hidden section of the station, a place that was not on any official map. She stopped in front of a plain metal door and knocked in a specific pattern. The door opened, and the humans found themselves in a large room filled with aliens they had never seen before. These aliens were different from the Council species. They were smaller, softer, and their skin had a wet shine to it. They looked at the humans with wide eyes, but not eyes filled with fear. These eyes held hope. An elderly female alien stepped forward. She was covered in small blue scales, and thin membranes connected her arms to her body like fins. When she spoke, her voice was like water flowing over rocks. I am Shalira of the Kalani people, she said. Tillix told us you would come. You are the ones who are not afraid of water. Daniel bowed his head in greeting. We are humans from the planet Earth. Water is sacred to our people. All life on our world comes from it. Shalira's eyes filled with tears, and the tears ran freely down her face. She did not try to hide them. Around her, other Kalani were also crying, and Daniel realized with shock that their tears were made of water. We also come from water, Shalira said softly. Our homeworld had great oceans, rivers, and rain. We are amphibious. We can breathe in water and in air. For 10,000 years we have hidden this truth. We dry our skin with chemicals. We pretend to fear water like everyone else. If the Council knew what we really were, they would destroy us. Ashley stepped forward, her own eyes wet. You have been hiding all this time, living in fear? A young Kalani male spoke up, anger in his voice. The Council killed billions of our ancestors. They called it purification. They said water-tolerant species were too dangerous to exist. Only a few of us survived by pretending to be something we were not. Daniel felt a deep sadness, but also a growing fire in his chest. You should not have to hide who you are. No one should. Another group of aliens emerged from the shadows of the room. These were different again, tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. One of them, a male with scars across his face, spoke in a harsh voice. We are the Draveen. Our homeworld once had water too, long ago. The Council came with their ships and their machines. They boiled our oceans. They burned our forests. They turned our planet into a dead rock. We have wandered the stars ever since, homeless and hated. Daniel looked at these broken people, these survivors of genocide, and he made a decision. He turned to his crew. We did not come to this galaxy alone, he said. We have allies, people who share our connection to water, people who have suffered under the Council's fear. He looked at Shalira and the Draveen leader. Will you stand with us? Shalira took his hand. Her skin was cool and damp, and her grip was strong. We have waited 10,000 years for someone to stand with us. Yes, human, we will fight beside you. The Draveen leader nodded slowly. We have nothing left to lose. If you can challenge the Council, we will be there. Tillix spread her wings slightly, a sign of determination. I will help coordinate. I know the station's systems. I can get you into the Council chamber. Kevin stepped forward, his face serious. Captain, we still need to warn Earth. The automated fleet will launch in less than 20 days. If we do not send a message, our planet will be caught by surprise. Daniel nodded. We need someone to fly back, someone fast and brave. He looked around at his crew, and his eyes settled on a young woman standing near the back. She had been quiet through most of their journey, but her eyes were sharp and steady. Lieutenant Megan Cross, Daniel said, you are our best pilot. Can you fly a stolen shuttle through hostile space and reach Earth in time? Megan stepped forward without hesitation. I can fly anything, Captain. Just point me toward home. The Dravine leader spoke up. We have a small ship hidden in the outer docks. It is fast. We will give it to you. Megan looked at the alien with gratitude. Thank you. I will not waste it. That night, Megan Cross climbed into a ship she had never seen before, filled with technology she did not understand. But she understood the controls, and she understood her mission. As she flew away from the station into the darkness of space, she carried with her the hope of two worlds. Behind her, Daniel Moreno stood with his new alliance. Humans, Kalani, Dravine, and one brave Valorian scientist. They were few against many. They were weak against the strong. But they had something the Council did not expect. They had water, and they were no longer afraid. Megan Cross pushed the stolen ship to its limits. She flew through asteroid fields and past patrol stations, always moving, never stopping. The Dravine ship was small, but fast, just as they had promised. Its engines hummed with a power she had never felt before, and it responded to her touch like it was alive. For 12 days, she traveled through hostile space. She slept in short bursts, ate the strange food she found stored in the ship, and kept her eyes on the stars. Sometimes she thought about her family back on Earth, her mother who grew tomatoes in her backyard, her younger brother who was studying to be a doctor. She thought about the billions of people who did not know that death was coming for them from the stars. On the 13th day, she saw the sun, her sun, the yellow star that had warmed human faces for millions of years. She almost cried as she flew past Mars, past the moon, and into Earth's atmosphere. She sent her emergency codes, and within hours, she was standing in front of the most powerful people on the planet. President Nathan Briggs was a large man with white hair and tired eyes. He had led Earth through 3 major crises in his 2 terms, but nothing had prepared him for this. He sat in the conference room of the United Earth Government headquarters, surrounded by generals, scientists, and diplomats, listening to Megan Cross describe the end of the world. When she finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Then the president spoke. You are telling me that the entire galaxy wants to kill us because we drink water? Megan nodded. Yes, sir. They see us as biological weapons. The automated fleet will arrive in about 12 days. They plan to destroy everything. A general slammed his hand on the table. Then we fight. We have ships. We have weapons. The president held up his hand. Is there any hope of peace? Megan thought of Daniel Moreno, standing in that hidden room with the Kalani and Dravine. Captain Moreno is trying to reach the Council directly. He wants to show them that we are not monsters. He is building an alliance with other species who do not fear water. But he needs time, and he needs us to survive long enough for diplomacy to work. The president stood and walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched to the horizon, full of life, full of people going about their ordinary days. They had no idea what was coming. Then we give him time, the president said quietly. We prepare our fleet, not to conquer, but to defend, and we hope that Captain Moreno can work a miracle. Across the galaxy, Daniel Moreno was about to try. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Daniel had ever seen. It stretched up into darkness, with thousands of seats arranged in a great circle around a central platform. Representatives from 100 species filled those seats, creatures of every shape and size, all watching as the small group of rebels entered through a side door. Tilix had disabled the security systems. The Kalani and Dravine had created a distraction in the lower levels. Now, Daniel walked toward the central platform, with Ashley Burke on one side and Kevin Torres on the other. Behind them came Ryan Holt and a dozen other crew members, plus Shalira and 3 Kalani elders. Ambassador Vorex saw them first. The crystalline being rose from his seat, his body flashing with angry light. "Guards!" he shouted. "The prisoners have escaped. Seize them!" Soldiers began moving toward the humans, but they stopped when they saw what Ryan Holt was carrying. The young engineer held his water tank high, letting everyone see the clear liquid inside. "Stay back," Ryan called out, "or I open this tank right here in the middle of your chamber." The soldiers froze. The representatives in the nearest seats scrambled to get away, climbing over each other in their panic. Within seconds, a wide, empty space had formed around the humans. Daniel climbed onto the central platform. His heart was pounding, but his voice was calm and clear. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, "I am Captain Daniel Moreno of the human vessel Horizon's Edge. We came to your station in peace, answering your invitation. You imprisoned us. You threatened our world. Now I am here to speak, and you will listen." Vorex's voice cut through the chamber like broken glass. "You have no right to speak here. You are not a member species. You are a threat that must be eliminated." Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out a small bottle. It was an ordinary plastic bottle, the kind that humans used every day without thinking. It was filled with water. "This is what you fear," Daniel said, holding it up so everyone could see. "This simple substance. On my world, it falls from the sky as rain. It fills our lakes and oceans. Children play in it. Old people sit by it and remember their youth. We are born in water. We are made of water. And yet, we are not your enemies." He opened the bottle. A gasp went through the chamber, a sound of horror from thousands of voices. "Watch," Daniel said softly. He poured the water over his hands. It ran between his fingers and dripped onto the platform. He rubbed it over his arms, his face. Then he raised the bottle to his lips and drank what remained, swallowing slowly, letting them see every moment. When he lowered the bottle, he was smiling gently. "I am not dead," he said. "I am not in pain. This is what water does to humans. It does not take it away." Shalira stepped forward, and she did something that made the chamber fall completely silent. She reached up to her face and wiped away the chemical coating that dried her skin. Underneath, her scales shone with moisture. She was crying, and she let her tears flow freely. "I am Kalani," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. "My people have hidden our true nature for 10,000 years, because we feared you. We feared this council, but I will hide no longer. Water is my life too." Daniel gestured toward the Kalani, toward the Dravine who stood at the edge of the chamber, toward Tilix, whose wings trembled, but who did not run. "You have built your civilization on fear," Daniel said. "Fear of water, fear of those who can touch it. But fear is a poor foundation. It cracks, it crumbles. We offer you something better. We offer partnership. Humanity can go places no other species can survive. We can explore worlds, covered in oceans, planets blessed with rain. We can work together, learn together, grow together." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Some showed fear. Some showed anger. But some, he saw, showed something else. Curiosity, interest, maybe even hope. "Or," Daniel said, his voice growing harder, "you can try to destroy us. You can send your fleet to Earth, and you will learn that a species born in water, raised in rain, swimming in oceans since before we could walk, is not so easy to kill." Vorex stepped forward, his crystalline form shaking with rage. "You dare threaten us? I offer you a choice. Daniel replied. That is not a threat. It is a gift. Choose wisely. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded the humans be killed immediately. Others called for calm and discussion. In the middle of it all, Daniel Moreno stood steady as a rock, his hands still wet with water, his eyes still calm. The vote would come soon, and the galaxy would have to decide what kind of future it wanted. The council debated for 3 days. Voices rose and fell in the great chamber. Some called for peace, some screamed for war. Ambassador Vorex walked the halls, gathering support, building his coalition of fear. He had spent his entire life believing that water was death, and he could not accept any other truth. On the 3rd night, while the council was still arguing, Vorex acted. He went to a secret room deep in the station and activated a protocol that had been dormant for centuries. A hidden fleet of automated warships, built in an age of paranoia, powered up in the darkness of space. Their destination was Earth. Their mission was total destruction. By the time the council learned what he had done, the fleet was already moving. Daniel Moreno heard the news from Kevin Torres, who had never stopped monitoring communications. The color drained from his face as he understood what it meant. "How many ships?" he asked. Kevin looked at his device with despair in his eyes. 300 automated destroyers. No crews, no mercy. They will reach Earth in 4 days. Ashley Burke grabbed Daniel's arm. "We have to warn them. Did Megan get through?" "She got through," Daniel said. "Earth knows the fleet is coming. But 300 ships against what we have?" He shook his head. "They need a miracle." On Earth, President Nathan Briggs stood in the command center of the United Earth Defense Force. Around him, officers worked at screens showing the approaching enemy fleet. It was the largest force ever assembled against humanity, and it was coming fast. Admiral Cynthia Grant stood beside the president, her gray hair pulled back tight, her uniform perfect, despite the chaos around her. She had served in the military for 35 years, and she had never faced anything like this. "Our fleet is ready," she reported. 87 ships of the line, 200 fighters, everything we have. The president looked at the numbers on the screen. "Can we win?" Admiral Grant met his eyes directly. "I do not know, sir, but we will fight. Every ship, every pilot, every sailor. We will show this galaxy what humanity is made of." The human fleet gathered near Mars, forming a defensive line between the approaching enemy and their home. The flagship was a great warship called the Resolute Dawn, and Admiral Grant commanded from its bridge. She looked out at the stars and thought about all the people counting on her. All the children, all the families, all the dreams. The enemy fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 300 identical ships, their hulls black as space, their weapons already charging. They did not try to communicate. They had only one purpose. Admiral Grant opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Grant. Today we fight not just for Earth, but for our right to exist. We fight against fear itself. Remember who you are. Remember what flows through your veins. Now let us show these machines what it means to be human." The battle began. Plasma fire lit up the darkness as the fleets met. Human ships were smaller and fewer, but they were crewed by living beings who could think, adapt, and feel. The automated destroyers followed their programming, efficient and deadly, but unable to imagine anything beyond their instructions. The humans used everything they had. They used speed and surprise. They used formations that split and reformed like water flowing around rocks. And they used their secret weapons. The engineers on the Resolute Dawn had worked through the nights, preparing special ammunition. These were filled with water, pressurized and ready to burst on impact. The automated ships had been built in a time when water was the greatest fear in the galaxy, and their systems were not protected against it. The first water missile hit a destroyer's hull, and the effect was immediate. The ship's sensors went wild, its circuits shorting out as water seeped into every crack. It spun out of control and crashed into two other ships nearby. Admiral Grant allowed herself a small smile. All ships, switch to water payload. Let us rain on their parade. The battle turned. Human pilots flew close to enemy ships and released pressurized water cannons, coating the destroyers in the one substance their builders had never imagined being used against them. Marines in combat suits carried what they called rain grenades, small devices that exploded into clouds of mist that sent enemy sensors screaming. One by one, the automated destroyers fell. They were powerful, but they had a weakness that their creators had never considered. Water, the death liquid, the thing that all galactic species feared, was the weapon that saved humanity. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, only 83 enemy ships remained, and those were drifting powerless in space, their systems destroyed by the very substance they had been sent to eliminate. The human fleet had lost 42 ships, nearly half their force, but Earth was safe. On the Council Station, news of the battle spread quickly. The automated fleet, the Council's ultimate weapon, had been destroyed by creatures who used water as their sword and shield. Vorax was arrested by his own guards, dragged away screaming that the galaxy was doomed. The Council had no choice now. They had seen what humans could do when pushed. They had seen that water, their greatest fear, could not destroy this strange species from a wet blue world. And they had seen allies standing beside the humans, Kalani and Dravine, who had hidden for too long and were ready to hide no more. The vote was called, and this time the result was different. By a margin of 63 to 37, the Galactic Council voted to accept a new treaty. They called it the Galactic Compact of Coexistence. Under the treaty, humanity, the Kalani, the Dravine, and any other water-tolerant species were recognized as full members of the galactic community. Protected zones were established where different species could live safely. The laws against water were rewritten, allowing regulated use by those who needed it. Daniel Moreno returned to Earth as a hero, but he refused to take credit alone. At the great ceremony in his honor, he stood before the crowd and spoke of Ashley Burke's courage, Kevin Torres's skill, Ryan Holt's bravery, and Megan Cross's impossible flight. He spoke of Tillix the scientist, Shalira the elder, and all the Kalani and Dravine who had risked everything for freedom. Admiral Cynthia Grant received the highest honors Earth could give. She accepted them quietly and dedicated them to the sailors who had not come home. Dr. Ashley Burke and Tillix published their research together, a groundbreaking study on galactic biochemistry that proved what they had known all along. Diversity makes civilization stronger, not weaker. 6 months later, the first human embassy opened on the Council Station. It was a small building, simple and welcoming. Above its entrance, carved in stone, was a message written in every language of the galaxy. From water we came, in peace we remain. Children on Earth learned about the stars differently now. They learned that the universe was vast and strange, full of creatures who feared what humans loved. But they also learned that fear could be overcome, that enemies could become friends, and that the things which make us different can also make us strong. When they looked up at the night sky, they did not see darkness anymore. They saw possibility. They saw a future where humans walked among the stars, carrying water in their veins and hope in their hearts. And far across the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, other children learned a new truth. The water beings were not monsters. They were neighbors. And the universe was bigger and stranger and more wonderful than anyone had ever imagined. The story of first contact had ended. The story of coexistence had just begun. The year was 2247, and humanity had finally done it. After centuries of dreaming about the stars, they had built ships that could travel faster than light. The whole world celebrated when the news came. Earth was no longer alone in the darkness of space. A signal had been received from somewhere far away, and it was not random noise. It was a message. Someone out there was calling. The United Earth government did not waste time. They built a ship called the Horizon's Edge, filled it with the best crew they could find, and sent it toward the signal. Captain Daniel Moreno stood on the bridge as the ship jumped through folded space. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and calm eyes that had seen many difficult things. He had been chosen for this mission because he knew how to stay steady when everything went wrong. Dr. Ashley Burke stood beside him, watching the stars blur and stretch outside the window. She was the chief science officer, a woman in her 40s, with short brown hair and a mind that never stopped asking questions. She had spent her whole life studying the possibility of alien life. Now she was about to meet it. Kevin Torres sat at the communication station, his fingers moving across glowing screens. He was young, only 26, but he was the best at reading signals and breaking codes. He had decoded the alien message that brought them here. It said simply, "Come, we are waiting." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and everyone on the bridge went silent. In front of them was the largest structure any human had ever seen. It was a space station the size of a small moon, covered in lights and strange shapes. Thousands of ships moved around it like insects around a hive. This was the heart of the Galactic Council, the government of 100 different species spread across 1,000 worlds. "Open a channel," he said. "Tell them we come in peace." Kevin sent the message. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice answered, cold and without warmth. "Human vessel, you will follow the guide ships to Docking Bay 9. You will not deviate. You will not resist." Ashley frowned. That does not sound very friendly. Daniel shook his head slowly. "No, it does not. But we came here to talk. Let us see what they have to say." The Horizon's Edge followed the guide ships into a massive docking bay. The crew gathered near the main airlock, 50 men and women in clean uniforms, ready to represent their planet. Daniel stood at the front with Ashley and Kevin beside him. Behind them was Ryan Holt, a young engineer with red hair and a nervous smile. He was only 23, the youngest person on the ship. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto the station. The air smelled strange, dry, and metallic. The walls were made of something that looked like black glass, and standing in front of them were aliens. Daniel had imagined this moment many times. He had pictured friendly beings with open arms. What he saw instead made his heart sink. There were soldiers everywhere, hundreds of them, pointing weapons at the humans. The soldiers were of many different shapes. Some looked like tall insects. Others were like walking rocks. A few seemed to be made of pure light. At the center of this army stood a being made of crystal. It was roughly human-shaped, but taller, and its body caught the light and split it into rainbows. Its face, if it could be called a face, had no expression. When it spoke, the voice was the same cold one from the communication channel. "I am Vorex, ambassador of the Xylathi Dominion and voice of the Galactic Council. You are under arrest." Daniel held up his hands slowly. "There must be some mistake. We came in response to your signal. We came to make peace." Vorex made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was sharp and unpleasant. "Peace? You are not diplomats. You are weapons. You are the most dangerous biological threat this galaxy has ever seen." Ashley stepped forward, confusion on her face. "What are you talking about? We are just people. We have no weapons of mass destruction. We only want to talk." Vorex pointed one crystalline finger at her. "You carry the weapon inside your bodies. Every single one of you is filled with it. Dihydrogen monoxide. The death liquid. Water." For a moment, no one spoke. Daniel looked at Ashley, then at Kevin. They did not understand. Vorex continued, his voice filled with what sounded like disgust. Every species in this galaxy evolved on dry worlds or in atmospheres where water exists only as trace vapor. To us, liquid water is poison. It burns, it corrodes, it kills, and you humans are made of it. 60% of your body mass is this deadly substance. You drink it. You bathe in it. You are walking containers of death. Ryan Holt whispered from behind Daniel. They are afraid of water? One of the soldiers near him flinched at the word, raising its weapon higher. Vorex nodded slowly. Your planet is covered in it. Oceans of death. Rain falling from the sky like acid. Rivers carving paths of destruction. We received your early radio signals decades ago. We watched and studied. We hoped you would destroy yourselves before you learned to travel the stars. But you did not, and now you are here. Daniel felt the weight of every weapon pointed at him and his crew. He kept his voice calm. We did not know. We mean no harm. Water is life to us. It is how we survive. We would never use it to hurt anyone. Vorex waved a hand, and soldiers moved forward to surround the humans. The Council will decide your fate. Until then, you will be contained. Your ship will be quarantined, and your planet will be discussed. Ashley's eyes went wide. Discussed? What does that mean? Vorex turned away, already walking toward a distant door. It means the Council will vote on whether to isolate your world forever or to destroy it completely. You have brought this upon yourselves by existing. The soldiers pushed the humans forward, herding them through long corridors and into a large room surrounded by glowing energy fields. The containment cell was cold and empty. When the last human was inside, the fields activated, trapping them. Daniel stood at the edge of the field, watching the aliens retreat. His crew looked at him with fear in their eyes. They had come to shake hands with the galaxy. Instead, they had learned that the galaxy wanted them dead, because of the very thing that gave them life. Ashley sat down on the hard floor, her head in her hands. They think we are monsters. Kevin checked his equipment, which the aliens had not taken. Captain, I am picking up transmissions. They are talking about Earth. They are really going to vote on destroying our home. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they were hard with determination. Then we need to change their minds. Somehow, some way, we will make them understand. We did not come this far to die in a cage. Outside the containment field, the Galactic Council was gathering to decide the fate of humanity. And the humans, trapped and surrounded, had nothing but each other and the water in their veins.